Let me tell you a story that happened 1,750 years ago. This Kurumba hill and the valley belonged at that time to one Musu, a Brahmin landlord. When tragedies occurred one after another in his household, he went to Kodungalur and prayed to his favorite deity, Kodungalur Amma. She was pleased to see his devotion, so she appeared before him and said, "You can ask me for a boon and it will be granted." The Brahmin was not in need of any worldly pleasures, so he said, "My mother, come with me to my home. I want to build a temple for you in my village." And she agreed. But he had another worry. From time immemorial, his village had been cursed with an acute shortage of pure water. But the Divine Mother guessed what troubled the Brahmin's mind. She said, "Don't worry. By the time you reach your home, a fountain of pure water will have sprung out on that hilltop. You can meet me beside it." So, this sanctified fountain took birth as a blessing of the goddess. It has never dried up and has continued to flow for 1,750 years. Now let's listen to yet another story. A story that tells the tale of the inhabitants of this village who come down the hills every day in search of pure water to quench their thirst, just as their ancestors had done. The tale of the present that narrates the creation of streams of pure water through the barren breast of the village. There is another fountain of pure water in the village. It doesn't boast of a 1,000-year-old history or the blessing of a goddess. Its every drop that flows to each and every courtyard of the village depicts the willpower and travail of a people. Ovlavanna is a small village adjacent to the city of Calicut in northern Kerala. Packed with 33 hills and their charming valleys, this tiny place is an excellent example of Kerala's typical irregular geography. Mother Nature was kind enough to bless the village with beauty and greenery, but denied it pure water. There are 3 rivers in the village. Chaliya, one of the biggest rivers of Kerala, flows fondling the southern part of the village. Cherupura, ebbing out from the Chaliya, flows, splitting the village in 2. Mambura, an important path of inland water transport, flows through the heart of the village. Vast reservoirs of water, Chali as the villagers call it, ponds, small lakes, narrow springs, and deep and wide pools. The village has plenty of inland water resources, but it is a case of water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. We live on top of this rock. We have to bring drinking water from remote places. First we dug a well in our compound. That was no use. Then we dug a bore well inside it, spending 25,000 rupees. We dug up to 305 feet. and that was also in vain. I'm living on a hillock. I dug a well, but it was of no use. I tried once again. That was also futile. Then I tried a bore well, but drinking water always eluded me. The situation is worse in the valleys and places of lower altitude. There's plenty of water here, but not good for drinking. The proximity of saline water in the rivers contaminates the water in the wells of nearby households. I live on the bank of a river. The saline water of the river pollutes my well. We bring water from distant places. For those who live near the fields, pure drinking water is a hard-earned, precious elixir. Seeing all this greenery, you would think this place would be full of pure water. Of course we have water here, but we can't use it even for washing, let alone for drinking. There's a lot of water here, but we can't drink it. And if we wash our clothes in it, it will only spoil the clothes. The people of these localities have to filter the water with cloth and pieces of sponge to make it useful for daily needs. As for drinking water, they have to collect it from limited sources of pure water, from remote areas of the village. As in many other villages, here too, the responsibility of collecting drinking water rests mainly on the shoulders of the women folk. Come morning and it is time to rush for drinking water. Before beginning any other work in the day, we have to queue up in front of the well early in the morning. You're lucky if you reach there first. If you're late, you have to return with empty pots. We don't even get time to eat. Even when we are eating, we are only thinking about collecting water. We store water before we go to work, and after work also we have to go in search of water again. It's miserable. We're always anxious, tense. You know why? Because of the problem of water. Will there be enough water in the world today? If I go out for some urgent work and return by evening, my mind is restless, troubled. When the stored water is finished, I have to run for water again and again. You know what that means? It means that we have no rest in life. There are over 10,000 families in the village of Ovlavanna. Almost 80% of the households depend on wells for drinking water. There are 4,100 wells in the panchayat. Most of these wells dry up with the advent of summer. The whole village faces an acute water shortage throughout the year, whether it is summer or rainy season. This village too has the Kerala Water Authority, an agency of the government of Kerala, which is responsible for distributing drinking water to the public. They have installed 45 public taps to meet the demand of a population of 50,000 people. Another source of water is bore wells, but there are only 3 of them. Here and there, the authorities of the panchayat have dug 540 wells during different periods, but the water in many of them is not usable. On the one hand, the prolonged plea of the public to put an end to their plight fell on deaf ears, while on the other, the uncertainty of the government-sponsored projects continued. As a result, for many of the villagers, the meaning of life was reduced to merely collecting water. Naturally, some among them began to seek a permanent solution. But the question that remained unanswered was, how? But they had a model among themselves as an answer to this question, the model set by a retired school teacher, Imbichikoya of Kambaliparamba. The well in his house had never dried up, even in acute summer. People in this locality used to collect drinking water from my well. Seeing that, an idea struck me. Why can't I make the water reach the households by constructing a tank and storing the water in it and connecting the tank to each of the households? I suggested the idea and everybody said yes. Within months, the project materialized. That was 10 years ago. At that time, each family contributed approximately 1,850 rupees. This model, which now supplies water to 33 families, drew a clear picture before the eyes of the villagers. Dig wells at apt places, construct tanks, connect the tanks to households using pipes, share the cost and divide the work. But it was easier said than done. The demand of 10,098 families of the Panchayat could not be met through a single project like this because of the peculiar topography of the place. There are 31 hills in this village, which occupy 61% of the total area of the Panchayat. 32% is paddy fields and 5% is no man's land. The remaining 2% is marsh. The people of each locality had to take their own separate initiative to solve their problems. The primary step was to identify pure water sources. They used a simple technique to solve this: indigenous knowledge. This village has an abundance of dense and congested vegetation. Even places of higher altitude, like the hill of Kariyatan Kunnu, abounds with greenery. According to village elders, these expound the presence of pure water. They perceived that Kavu, the sacred remains of a glorious ecosystem, and the myth of the sanctified fountain at the Kurumba Hills were hints of the richness of pure underground water. These observations inspired the villagers. It was the village folk of the Kambaliparambu locality who pioneered the collective movement to solve their drinking water problem. Their only possession was the strength of their determination and a faith in their indigenous knowledge. While venturing into this movement 10 years ago, we had to face a lot of obstacles. But the determination of 20 families eventually made this project possible. In 1989, 20 families of this locality formed a People's Committee. They registered it as a society under the Societies Act of the Government of Kerala. Each family took a share of 2,500 rupees each. Within a year, a long-cherished dream was fulfilled. Presently, this society provides sufficient water for 54 families of the vicinity round the clock. When the committee was formed some years ago, we took a share of 2,500 rupees and participated in all its activities. That was our only expenditure. Now we're getting plenty of water. The total expenditure on the entire project was 1,14,000 rupees. The committee opened a bank account and deposited the balance. Now they run the project on the interest from this amount. The success of this project motivated the entire population. Gradually, similar committees mushroomed in every nook and corner of the village. As a first step to the launching of a project, people gather in a courtyard in the evening to discuss every aspect of the scheme. They consider these evening gatherings to be evidence of an intimate unity which emerges from the realization that one's own life is one's own responsibility. Dear friends, we have gathered here to discuss an important matter. The inhabitants of this locality have been facing severe scarcity of drinking water for a very long time. How can we overcome this problem? You know that people of nearby areas of our own panchayat have successfully launched their own separate drinking water projects. Their success is an evidence of the fact that we don't have to depend on the authorities to solve our problems. It means that we as a people are self-sufficient and can find answers to our own problems. I'll have to sell my goat and even ornaments to take a share in the project. But can you assure me of its success? Please realize that we are launching this project on the model of other successful projects of our village. We are making use of the services of the people who worked to accomplish these schemes earlier. The committee distributes application forms among its members. Once a form is filled up and signed by a member, he or she is bound to abide by its rules. Every committee assures that, in case a member is incapable of remitting the entire amount at a stretch, he or she can pay in installments. First of all, the committee identifies a location of pure water resources with the help of village elders. They decide the location on the basis of certain geological and botanical hints. They also examine the quality and the level of the water in nearby wells before fixing the location. The entire committee swings into action with the purchase of the land needed to dig the well. While the digging of the well is in progress on one side, the preliminary efforts to construct the tank commences on the other. In elevated places, the tank is constructed on hillocks. To accomplish this, the height of the hill from sea level has to be measured. The villagers have only one method. They physically traverse the entire distance, right from the river bank up to the hilltop, taking water levels at different points. Once the measurement is done, the power of the motor to pump the water can be calculated. Each member has to contribute human labor for certain days in addition to the amount remitted as membership fees. In case someone is incapable of working, he has to donate an amount sufficient to hire a laborer. All this work is voluntary till the completion of the project. The core of all these joint activities is a realization that getting drinking water is a collective responsibility of each member. Therefore, each member works hard to earn money for the fulfillment of his dream. Most of the inhabitants of this village are laborers who toil from morning to evening in order to win their daily bread. In many of the households, women too have to go to work to support the family. Most of these women work in the coir industry, which is a major hut industry here. Finding enough money for drinking water is difficult for these poor village folks. I too wanted to become a member in the project of our neighborhood. I gathered money from a chit fund, but that was not enough, so I had to sell my goat and a few ornaments. To me, drinking water is more important than anything else. I sacrificed a lot to pool enough money to become a member in this scheme. I even had to sell my wedding chain. After all those prolonged, laborious days, at last, the pure water hidden beneath mud, stone, and hard rock is retrieved. With this, an important phase of the project is complete. Now the water has to be stored in the newly constructed tanks to distribute it among the members through pipelines. This again is voluntary labor. Within 10 years of the successful completion of the first drinking water project, 23 separate schemes have been launched effectively in different regions of the village. Each committee supplies water for 10 to 80 families. Depending on the capacity of the tank, each family can use 400 to 500 liters of water every day. Every committee possesses 3 to 6 cents of land, a wide well with a diameter of 5 to 6 meters, big tanks and pump sets. While most of these committees distribute water free of cost, others charge the members for the excess water they use at the rate of 2 paise per litre. The 23 projects situated in different localities of the Panchayat are managed by workers' groups which are registered as per the Societies Acts of the Government of Kerala. Each one performs independently and in a decentralized way. These committees have charged differently from the members, fees ranging from 2,500 to 9,000 rupees. The total expense, including that for human labor, of all these projects has been estimated at 1 crore of rupees. Either a 3-phase connection or diesel generators used to pump water to the houses which are situated within a range of a kilometer. The major expenditure in running the projects includes the electricity bill and the salary of pump operators. To meet this expense, some committees use their bank balance, while others collect money from the members for the excess water they use. When the experiments of this village attracted public attention, the media highlighted it as the Ovlavanna model of participatory development. Gradually, neighboring villages like Peruvayal began to imitate this model. Is this model apt for the entire state to solve the crisis of drinking water? Kerala is an Indian state which receives very high rainfall. If one takes into account the amount of rainwater that the state gets every year, and the 44 large perennial rivers that flow through it, and the abundance of backwater resources, one would tend to think that Kerala will never face a scarcity of potable water. But the reality is different. Drought has been a common phenomenon in the state since 1983. Every year, the government spends crores of rupees to distribute drinking water. The participatory development model of Ovlavanna is the answer of a village and its people to this crisis. Decentralized development is necessary to solve the drinking water crisis. If power is given to the people, they can solve the crisis themselves, making use of their own water resources. And also, expenses reduce substantially when people take the initiative. But is it advisable to imitate all aspects of this model in its totality? a thorough study is needed to find an answer. The scientists at the Center for Water Resources Development and Management, a governmental agency situated in Calicut, have now ventured into a detailed study about this model. By the completion of the study, it is anticipated that more resources of pure water can be identified. The study would also suggest scientific ways for the purification of water. At present, none of the schemes have scientific methods of water treatment. The water is being pumped from side wells using high-power motors. This may result in the decrease of the quantity of groundwater in the entire village. There is yet another threat, the coir industry, which may contaminate water in the wells. Scientific guidance is essential here to preserve invaluable human labor. But they need drinking water to keep themselves alive prior to all scientific guidance. That's why more and more drinking water projects sprout throughout the village. So far, the drinking water problem of 1,000 families has been solved. Apart from these people's projects, Olavanna has some other schemes with public taps alone, introduced by the authorities. The drinking water problem of 15,000 people still remains unsolved. These include a section who are unable to become members of the committees due to financial problems. The Panchayat authorities are now planning to solve this issue through a novel method of participatory development. We are planning to provide half of the estimated amount for new schemes initiated by people's committees. If a project needs 4 lakhs of rupees and if the committee generates half the amount, we'll give them the rest. Then it's up to them to launch the project and maintain it. In the coming days, this village will witness a genuine style of development in which both the authorities and the people work hand in hand. The late-night camaraderie in the courtyards of the village bears testimony to the determination and hard work of the village folks to realize their dreams. Olavanna, an unassuming village, has neither heroes nor any historic personalities to project before the world. What it has to highlight is the willpower of its people, who toil from morning till evening to sustain their lives. It is the truth and the virtue of these people that flow into every courtyard of the village. I spent 5,000 rupees and it has changed my life. I get plenty of water. Our tiresome days are over. Now no need to pay for the doctors. We're getting enough water and we are happy. These people, who don't forget to smile even in the midst of their daily turmoil, who have nothing to keep for tomorrow except their noble model of dedication and mutual cooperation. Once upon a time in Olavanna, there was a Tannir Pandal, a shade where the thirsty got buttermilk free of cost. Many a traveler might have taken rest in this shade and left satiated while traversing distances under the blazing sun. The present generation has now uplifted its unity as a commemoration of this age-old virtue. Digging the earth in quest of drinking water is an ancient practice. Through this process, the modern man links himself to the beginning of human civilization. For water is the symbol of earth alone and of life.